This episode is like a consequence of last week's episode. Embarrassingly so. Welcome back to Human. My name is Jess, and if there's anything I give you on this podcast is the real shit going on and polar opposite energy, the highs and lows, the black and white thinking, the extreme ends of the spectrum. And if you did not listen to last week's episode, let me just tell you, last week was like, here's how to be so productive amidst a really busy season. And obviously this week is I crashed out and I threw my back out. And I wish that was clickbait, but it's not. And I was like, LOL, this episode's going to be so funny like 3 days ago. And then boom, I threw my back out, which I've heard people do. I've heard people talk about it. I have never thought I'd understand like I do now. So let's begin, because people say bad things happen in threes, and I will consider my threes having happened all in the span of 3 days. So obviously things have been busy and I've been doing a lot and there's been a ton of shit going on. And last week I was starting to sort of hit my breaking point, but I was like, okay, great. I was able to give up some shifts. I was able to like get some more space in my schedule coming up. And that is the key word, coming up. So something very common with me is I will start to have like meltdowns when I'm like hitting my edge of I've taken on too much or I haven't had enough rest. And the meltdowns came and went and I didn't stop, because I was talking to my mom about it this morning and she's like, well, you didn't really have a lot of choice, Jess. And I'm like, it's kind of true. Like there wasn't a lot of people I could have relied on to give up shifts to, because all of us at the Pilates studio I work at, we're kind of at, the max of our bandwidth, because, you have enough people to teach at one studio and then you open a second studio, but then there were still new people getting hired. They just weren't fully ready to hit the floor yet. And so all of us were really stretched. So it's not like I really could have let off more from my plate. There are certain areas where I definitely could have calmed down, but I wasn't resting properly. I wasn't taking care of myself properly. And so this has led to the events that I would like to share with you this week. Okay. And I will try and keep it lighthearted, but I'm not quite out of the thick of it. So if there's a more somber tone, that is why. Okay. So let's begin on Friday night. It's been a crazy week. Something to note with all of this is that for the past month, I have had 1 day off a week, not 2. And the way it all kind of fell last week was I worked Sunday and Monday at Othership. And then I worked Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Pilates studio. And I'll coat this all with the knowing that I don't work 8-hour days. I don't teach Pilates for 8 hours, but it is really demanding. It's really hard on the nervous system. It's really intense. And so even if I'm not teaching, 8 hours, it's like, it's still a lot. It takes a lot out of you, whether you're teaching 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 classes, it can be a lot. And not only that, but the commute's crazy. And I've talked about that. I'm pumped to move in a week, which is crazy. Oh my God, I'm moving in a week. It's crazy. And then you add on like an hour plus commute each way and your whole day is eaten up. And then I took on another job. So it's been a lot. And I ended up working 7 days in a row. Also, I have a heating pad on my neck right now and it is getting hot as balls. Okay, so bless you. My mom just sneezed so many times and I could hear her. I'm so grateful that this all happened though, because it's given me so much quality time with my mom. So note that there's so many lessons coming out of my crash out and throwing my back out. So it's Friday night. I have one more day. That's like my big push. And in my head, I was like, this is the end of my big push. I have a little bit more time to like chill after this. Everything's going to be fine. I was saying that to myself, but in the back of my head, I didn't really believe it, because I didn't have 2 days off after this 7-day streak of working. And also like to normalize, There's a lot of people I work with who go 2 weeks without a day off. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying I promote it. It's just something that's become very normalized in my community of being a facilitator is people will be like, oh yeah, whoops, like did this person a favor, did that person a favor, had my usual shifts and then boom, I didn't take a day off for 2 weeks. I could not. I would die. I died not taking a break for 7 days in a row. Okay. So Friday night, it's like, I think I'm at the end of the big push, but at the end of the day, it's not completely the end of the big push because I don't have fully a lot of time to recuperate. So Friday night, my boyfriend and I are hanging out and I'm like crashing out. I'm crying. He's like, I can't believe how fucking stressed you've been. This is too much. He's massaging my back. He's like, you're so tight in your back. Like, why are you stressing so much? I'm talking about kind of money stress I'm having. And I said to him, I'm like, tomorrow's the last big push. And then I have a little bit more time off and I've given up more shifts. But like, is that true? Not really. At least I'm convincing myself it's true. And so anyway, I go to bed that night kind of like having this moment of like, okay, wow, like he's telling me I'm really stressed. I have this like weird inability to be able to tell that I'm stressed. Like part of me feels like it's just like, no, I'm supposed to be operating at this like really intense high level. It's fine. I'm fine. And I'm not fine. And so crazy enough, this was the story that I was so excited to tell. I go to bed. And I have to wake up the next morning at 7 because I need to teach at 9 and I have to leave at 8 because it takes me like an hour to get there. So I go to bed, and to preface this, I have 2 like plants that are in macrame hanging baskets near my bed. One of them is like far over to the left over my nightstand, and one is like not fully over my other nightstand. It's more a little bit over my bed, but on the side that I don't really sleep on. And at 1 a.m, I wake up, and this happens often where I like have to go pee in the night. So I wake up, I think I just have to go pee because I just randomly woke up in the middle of the night. I go pee and I'm like, what is happening? I feel something on my skin and I'm like 5% awake, 95% asleep. Like if you listen to last week's episode, I've been sleeping like I'm dead because of how much I've been doing in a day. And I'm just like kind of unaware what's going on. And so I just step into the shower. I'm in my bathroom in the pitch black because I don't even turn lights on when I go pee in the middle of the night. And I'm like brushing something off of my face that feels like sand. And I just am not even cognizant of what's happening. I'm like kind of like MIA in my thinking brain. So I'm standing in my bathroom and I'm like brushing something off my face and I realize it's on my shirt. So I take my shirt off and I leave it in the bathroom and then I just walk back into my bed and I go to crawl into my bed. And then I'm like, oh, what the fuck is in my bed? And I am like, okay, well, I have to turn the lights on at this point. So I turn the lights on and there's dirt all over my pillow, my sheets, my blanket. I have a double blanket situation. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And like all my pots are still in place. It's not like a pot fell on my head. All my pots are still in place. My plants seemingly look fine, but there's dirt all over my bed. And I can't even tell you how asleep I was, like coma-like sleep. And so I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And I'm like, okay, I guess I need to clean this up. So I start like trying to brush the dirt off. And then I take my top layer blanket off. And then I realize there's so much dirt in my bed, like so much dirt that I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I'm like, what do I do? And so then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go upstairs and sleep in the guest bed that my mom has in her office. I'm like, I just don't think I can do this right now. It's 1 a.m. I need to like go to bed and go to work in the morning. So I get up and I go upstairs and the door is closed. And I'm like, fuck, someone's sleeping in there. Because sometimes my parents like won't sleep in the same bed. It happens. I'm going to be the same. And so I'm like, I'm going to open it just in case. And so I open the door and my dad's like, what? What's up? What? And I'm like, sorry. And I'm like, Dad, there's dirt in my bed. And he's like, what? I'm like, there's dirt in my bed, like a plant fell in my bed. And he's like, what the fuck? And then it was so funny. The next morning, I go to my parents to talk to them, and my dad's like, my mom goes, I heard you almost crawled into bed with Dad last night. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm fucked. Like, I can't sleep in this bed. So I guess I could have kicked him out, but that's really fucked up. So I was like, okay, I guess I just have to go deal with this. So I go back downstairs and I'm like, okay, I have to clean this up. So I get my vacuum out, I start vacuuming, I start taking all the sheets off, I throw everything in a pile on the floor, I go get new sheets, I go put the sheets on, and I touch my face and like there's still dirt on it, so I brush the dirt off my face, there's some dirt in my ears, and I'm so tired. I'm like, I can't even deal with this. So I go to bed. And I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what the fuck happened last night? How did dirt fall on my motherfucking face in the middle of the night? And so what happened was when I went to my Airbnb, I like neglected the plants I had in my basement. My mom was like, yeah, I maybe watered them like once. But to be fair, like all of my plants are dying anyway. Like we're coming out of a dark ass winter. My plants are in a basement. They get barely any sunlight. My plants are hanging on by a thread. And so then when I moved home from the Airbnb, I like got really lazy and just like wasn't taking care of my plants. And my dad was like, I could have predicted this happened. This was preventable, Jessica Jane. And so what happened was the top part of my plant that had the leaves on it was dead and the roots disconnected from like the soil. And so that night, the fucking leaves fell off my pot. Gravity took advantage of the situation and it fell on my bed. Okay, there's big lessons here. Obviously, don't put something like that over your fucking bed. I mean, someone once told me not even to hang pictures over my bed because if it falls on your face, it could like kill you in the night. And then the second thing is obviously I should have been watering my plants or should have just dealt with it, okay? But as we know from last week's episode, I had a lot on my plate. My dead plants were like the least of my fucking worries. I was about to move out. I was just like, whatever, I'll deal with these later. And then the third thing though was, why did it happen that night? Like, it could have happened the night before when I was sleeping with my boyfriend and it would have fallen right on his face. It could have happened days later. It could have happened a week before. I just, like, am a bitch who believes in the universe, okay? We know this. And so I'm just like, why tonight? Why did it happen right when I said I was at the end of my capacity and I'm exhausted and I can't fucking function anymore? Like, what is the universe trying to tell me, okay? And I don't have time to ponder that. I'm more just like baffled that this situation even happened and kind of doing it in a way where it's like, I don't know, I'm on some high horse and I need to be humbled and the dirt is humbling me kind of thing where I'm like, how could this happen to me? How crazy. So then I go to work in the morning and I teach the 4 classes. But here's where comes in the second bad thing. You know, bad things happen in threes. Here's the second thing that happened. I show up to work. I run through my sequence because I'm like, these are new machines. I don't really know if this will work. I decided it will work. And then I'm like, okay, I have about 20 minutes before I have to teach. I should check the mic before I do anything else. Because like the front desk person hadn't gotten there yet. And sometimes we have a front desk person, sometimes we don't. So if we don't, I check everyone in. So I'm like, okay, hold on, Jess. Like you should check the mic before anything else because that will be, you know, the most important thing. Like worst case scenario doesn't work. You have to have time to deal with that. So it didn't work. The mic was not working. I couldn't hear it. I switched out the headset. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And the like, I don't know if the right word for it is like transponder, but like the box that it like, you know, is connected to was up really, really high. So I didn't like pull that down. So I sent an SOS. My boss called me. She was amazing. She walked me through everything. I think what happened was that on the actual box, the mute button was just clicked. But then not only did I unmute it, but then I had to kind of change the volume and adjust like the gain for both the mic and the music because in our headphones we're playing music and we're playing and our microphone's coming through it. So it's like you need that to be balanced. So I deal with all of that, but it's like literally 5 minutes before I'm about to teach that we solve it all. None of the headphones are laid out for everybody. That's what I was deciding between. Should I check my mic or should I lay out the headphones? I'm like, obviously mic is more important. So I check the mic, it's not working. So then I lay out my headphones for everybody. I'm feeling frazzled. I go have a moment. I try and ground myself. Luckily, a front desk person did show up, you know, before the class began. So she checked everybody in. I wouldn't have had time to check anybody in. And so I try to like ground myself and I'm like, okay, let's fucking do this. It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Yee the fuck ha, let's teach this class. So I begin. And we do our core block. Life is fine. I can't remember in this moment what order this happened in. But at some point, I think really early on into the class, my sister-in-law calls me. And the problem with when someone calls you when you teach class is it interrupts everything. It cuts the music. Everyone can hear the phone ringing. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb. It clearly wasn't. And, you know, you can kind of like brush it off really fast and not say anything, but I was like too frazzled from the morning that I was like, oh my God, why is my, and I make it a funny thing and it's like, fine. But that kind of throws me off all the time if it ever happens, which it like rarely. I think it may have happened once before in my class. So whatever, we get through that. And then I'm like, okay, great. We're going to our leg series. We're going to use cables, use the same springs you just used for your core block, put it in your right heel. Like, let's fucking go. And as soon as we get into this move, people are like, I can't do this. Like, it's getting caught. And then I try and help one person and then another person says the same thing. And then I'm like, okay, are we all having problems? And they're like, yeah. And these machines are different than our other machines at a different location where the placement of the cables is a little bit different. And so it can get caught on the carriage. And so also I think the springs might have been a bit too heavy because the springs are really tight at this location versus the other one that the springs have been loosened over a year. And so I'm like, okay, fuck this, drop the cables. Let's do a heavy leg press. Or let's do like a bender lunge or whatever. And then later on, I'm like, how the fuck am I going to even out your sides? Because at least some people did a cable press for the first like 5 minutes of class. And so I'm like, okay, we'll do a heavy leg press. And so that's how I even it out. But in this moment, every single thing I had sequenced needs to go out the window. Not everything, but I'm like, fuck the cables. I'm done. Like I need to just do anything that I can easily cue and I know where we're going. And it was fine. We get through class number 1. We still have 3 to go. And by the way, in between each class is 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, everyone's leaving the class and everyone from the next class is coming in. So it's like, it's not a restful 10 minutes. So, you know, we get through that first class. I'm like, thanks for joining us for the Hot Mess Express. Hope you had a great start of your Saturday. Have a good day. Goodbye. And then class number 2 happens. And in class number 2, like 10 minutes in, maybe even no, I think it was like a good 30 to 40 minutes in, someone was barefoot. And I realized, and I think she was wearing regular socks, not grip socks, and then just took her socks off. And I was like, I'm trying to focus on this new sequence that I'm sequencing right here and now in this moment. I cannot deal with you in your bare feet. I'm just going to leave it be. And stupid enough, I texted my boyfriend in between those 10 minutes being like, Josh, everything that could go wrong is going wrong. I don't think I can hang out with you and your sister and your brother-in-law tonight. Like, I'm so overwhelmed, whatever. I'm being a dramatic bitch, okay? And so then he's like, what the fuck is wrong with her? At this point, my phone's on Do Not Disturb. He tries to bypass my Do Not Disturb. It starts going off in class again. I'm like, what the fuck? And then my sequence is great though. My sequence is slaying. But we're in the last 10 minutes of class, about to enter our final core block. And this girl flags me over, God bless her. And she's like, are we not going to do the other leg? And I'm like, what? And for a hot split second, I thought I skipped the entire left leg. Like, I went blank. I was like, did we not do anything on the left leg? And she's like, and I'm like, and she's like, I'm just like, what? And she's like, the heavy leg press. I'm like, oh my God, fuck, we didn't do the heavy leg press on the left leg. She's like, no, we didn't. I'm like, slay, we're going to do it right now. We had time, so it was fine. Like, luckily your closing core block, it could be 3 minutes, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 10 minutes. It's really whatever you want to make it. And I kind of change it on the fly every time, depending on like what we're feeling, how much time we have, where everyone's bodies are at. And so I'm like, okay, great. Let's do heavy leg press on the left side. Thank you for reminding me. We love you. Shout out to you. And then we do heavy leg press. But like, everything was fine, but it's so embarrassing. Like, so embarrassing when that shit happens. So anyway, I'm like, thank you for coming to the Hot Mess Express again. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. And then I'm in the bathroom with my 10 minutes in between getting ready for my third and fourth class. And my boyfriend calls me again. And I'm like, I can't talk for the next 2 hours. He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, everything's fine. Sorry, I'm being dramatic. And so whatever, I get through the third class and the fourth class. I simplify the sequence. Everything goes okay. By the fourth class, we're vibing. Oh no. And then, actually in the fourth class, another person's barefoot. I've been teaching there since December. Not once have I seen a barefoot person. And I had 2 barefoot people in the same day. And luckily the front desk gal was still there. And I'm like, I literally walk out of the room while I'm queuing and everyone's like doing a fucking plank. And I turn my mic off and I'm like, girl, someone's barefoot. And this girl's been barefoot since the moment she started class. And I'm like, okay, this is a problem. So she goes in and hands her grip socks. And I'm just kind of like, because I also can't tell anyone anything in this moment. I'm queuing with my voice almost the entire class. So how am I going to go turn my mic off and be like, hey, bitch, why the fuck aren't you wearing socks? So it was just a whole thing. And I'm driving home and I have another meltdown and my boyfriend's like, what is wrong? He's like, dude, you texted me saying everything that could go wrong did go wrong. He's like, did you tear your ACL? Like, did your car break down? Did you get hit by a bus? And I was like, oh, sorry. Like, I meant the expression of like, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Like, tech-wise. And he's like, okay, well, you need to be more fucking clear next time. And then you said I couldn't call you for 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, fair. And then he's like, we're going to see my sister. It's going to be fun. And I was like, okay, you're right. Like I was being a drama queen. But I think my instincts were right in that moment where I was like, I need to have me time, I think is what my brain was trying to tell me. So then we have a wonderful conversation on the car ride home. And like the car ride home is like a good 50 minutes. Okay. So we like have a highs and lows conversation talking about this, that, and the other. And I kind of land on like, okay, what is this dirt telling me? Because this is a crazy sign from the universe. And then everything went wrong this morning. And Josh is like, girl, you're trying to be humbled. Like the universe is trying to humble you. Like you are, thinking you can do everything and be invincible. And the universe is like trying to slap you across the face and say, chill the fuck out. And so I'm not like in the headspace to process that yet, but I'm like, yeah, probably. But I'm still, when you're still like, your ego is so big that you like can't even accept the truth of that. That's kind of where I was. And it's just interesting as well, because the night before when I was having a crash out with Josh, I was like, dude, I feel so disconnected from my spirituality. And he was like, what does that even mean? And it's just like, to me, it was like, I felt so on edge all the time and so like go, 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 go that I just felt like I couldn't get a grasp on anything. I felt like I couldn't even like spend quality time with people because I was so chaotic in my mind. And I just felt so disconnected from trusting that everything would work out. And part of this also was like, there was a lot of stress I had the week before because I know I'm so busy, but then the moment I'm not busy, I was like, I need to prepare my place to move. And so that's where things continued to sort of go downhill, is because I, worked that Saturday, had a crazy day, and then had a little bit of time at home by myself and had a bath and sort of connected to the earth a little bit. I went outside and sat in the rain, and then I went to go hang out with my boyfriend and his sister and her husband. And it was great. And we like ate food and watched a movie and just had some chill time. But we also stayed out late and, this, that, and the other. And then Josh slept over. And then the Sunday, him and I went to see a movie in the morning. So it was good. Like I watched 2 movies in that weekend. I had some time to quote unquote rest. But as I've been processing, I'm like, I wouldn't even consider that full on rest. I would consider that like disassociation. You know what I mean? I got to escape my life for a bit, but I didn't necessarily get to like de-stress in my body. So Josh and I see a movie on the Sunday, and then my brother and his girlfriend come over because his girlfriend just got home from a 5-week trip and I've missed her so much. But I'm also struggling at the same time because I'm exhausted. And so I hang out with my family and we have a good hang and we eat dinner. But then like, when the hang kind of goes on for like 4 more hours, but it could have only gone on for like another hour. That's kind of the vibe I feel like I have a lot with not only my family, but Josh's family. And it's not a bad thing because you end up having really good talks. But I just kind of was at the end of my capacity for good talks. And so I was like, okay, guys, if we're all going to hang out, we don't have dominoes to play, let's go to the basement and help Jess clean up the basement. And so that's what we did. But the problem is that I just kind of kept being a maniac and like kept tightening my muscles in my back and kept stressing myself out and walking around and throwing out papers. And Josh was kind of like, Jess, like, you don't need to do all of this right now. And my parents were laughing too, because they were like, you can come back here and you can like sort through all this shit later. But I think I was having so much anxiety that I was like, no, I need to have things cleaned up. I need to have things in order. I want to know what I'm bringing to the place. And so my chaotic shitstorm just kind of continued. And guess what? Now we're at the end of my 1 day off that I had in the span of 8 days. And coming up is another 5 days of work. I had, the Tuesday off. Great. Actually, I didn't even have the Tuesday off this week. I was supposed to have Thursday off. So I had to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then would have Thursday off. And so I wake up Monday morning. And I don't even remember what I did Monday morning, but at 9:30, I have an hour-long call. And then at 11, I have another meeting. And then I have work I have to do. And then by 4:30, I start work at Othership. So I was basically starting the cycle all over again when I had very clearly needed a break. And I went to the shower and I had 10 minutes to have a quick shower and was going to try and eat breakfast before I had a 9:30 call. And I went into my shower and my neck felt really, really tight. And all I did was quickly tilt my head over so that my right ear was stretching towards my right shoulder. And then I felt a pop. And I felt a pull all the way from my left trap up my left neck. And it felt like instant pain. And I flipped out and I went, oh my God, what the fuck did I just do to myself? And I got out of the shower, immediately looked at if I could go to physio, which was kind of crazy that I immediately did that. Didn't even give myself a chance to feel it. I was like, oh my God, I did something wrong. I need to go to physio. There was an appointment at 10 a.m. At this point, it was 9:25. I canceled my meeting. I said, can we meet later? I went to physio, which was a bad idea to go so fast because it was really intense. The physio went really hard. I was in pain and I left feeling more stiff. And then I went on with my day. And that was what was even more fucked up was I then took my 11 a.m. meeting in my car. I went to Othership that night and worked. And my coworkers were like, Jess, you look like shit. Give up your shifts tomorrow. You look terrible. And thank God I was teaching my chillest class, but I was I can't even look up at people because I sit on the floor and then it's stadium seating. So I couldn't even look up. And that's when I realized I figgity fucked up. So I'm recording this on Thursday. I still have a very tight neck. I'm not having as much searing pain. I would have spasms and shooting pain up my neck. You're like, why are you recording this, Jess? I wanted to record it when I was in the thick of it, but I am going to take 2 weeks off from the podcast and take care of myself. But I took basically this entire week off work and have been trying to heal and have been reflecting on how I got myself here because, my ego was so big last week being I'm so productive. And now I've crashed and burned. And one of the things I was journaling about this morning was that I feel the way I am is an object in motion stays in motion. And I've struggled with this pattern for my whole life. When I am go, 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 I really struggle to stop and to force myself to be present and to be awake in my brain and connected to my body. And I felt like an object in motion staying in motion where I was just this chaotic snowball of just not resting and not taking time for myself and not spending time in my mind. And there were so many warning signs that I needed to stop, but I couldn't really stop, or I just wasn't willing to stop. And when your body whispers, it hopes you'll listen until it yells. And so my body was whispering. There were so many mornings where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I need to drive this far again and all this stuff. But I was like, too bad, keep going. And there were so many signs I couldn't have the capacity to connect properly with my family and support my boyfriend. And then, I think the dirt falling on my face, I think that was the universe, getting pretty loud at me. But I was like, this is crazy. I'm invincible. And then everything going wrong that morning teaching was also the universe yelling at me. And then it screamed on Monday morning. And I know this doesn't all need to have this deep, bigger meaning. And you might be listening to this being like, Jess, people pull their back. People, hurt themselves. They throw their back out. This happens. Why are you making it such a bigger thing? And I'm making it such a bigger thing because I know I pushed my body to a breaking point. And if my neck wasn't so tight that morning, I don't think I would have hurt it that bad. And so my body and the universe forced me to stop and forced me to give up my shifts and forced me to put my ego aside and forced me to ask for help, which are things I try to do but struggle to do a lot. And the thing with all of this too is that we all have patterns from our lives, from our childhoods, and this one is mine. You know, I've been really trying to journal, obviously, and reflect on all of this. And when I think about my childhood, and not only that, but into my high school years too, up until, the end of grade 11, I did musical theater all the time throughout the entire year. And there were constantly seasons in my life where I had to push and push and push and push and not listen to my body and push through getting sick because my body was screaming at me to stop, because there was, the saying, the show must go on. There were shows to do. There were, performances that had to be, fucking executed. And somehow, quote unquote, I've gotten myself into a profession in adulthood where it's the same thing. Dance monkey dance. I have to show up at work and I have to perform. And it's really hard to ask for help, and it's really hard to sub out your classes because these people are relying on you. These people specifically booked your class. It's inconvenient for the scheduler to change things last minute. And, there's a lot of weird things to work through, and it's really crazy just how I'm just continuing out these patterns that I began. And it was constant. When I did musical theater growing up at the studio, it's like we did a spring show, we did a fall show, we did a Christmas show, and then the same thing continued on when I went to high school for musical theater. I remember even when I was like, I don't want to perform anymore in grade 11, I was like, I don't want to perform. I'll be on like the tech team. Well, it didn't matter. I still had to fucking not only be at every single show every day after school for a week, but I had to do it for 2 weeks because they voluntold me that I had to do it for not only the grade 11s, but the grade 12s. And so I was changing people's mic packs every night after school until 10 p.m. and then expected to wake up at 7:30 the next day and get to school by 8:15 every single morning. Like, when I think back to it, I'm like, that's fucking insane. And how could you say I had to do that in order to graduate my musical theater class? So obviously you can see why in grade 12 I said fuck this and stopped doing musical theater and finally said goodbye to it. But it doesn't matter. I found myself back in a similar type of profession, and there's so much I love about it, but that is one thing that is really hard to navigate within it. And it's self-inflicted. So I'm taking accountability, and I want to kind of talk about just how did we get here? And as I've been continuing to reflect, and I'm sure more epiphanies will come, the reality is I took on too much from day one. With the launch of the Pilates studio, I put my hand up for way too many shifts and said, yep, no problem, I can make it work. And then there were many moments where they couldn't get additional coverage for shifts still. And I said, yeah, no problem, sure, I can do it. And then there were certain things that I wouldn't let go. So yes, I said yes to all of these things. And then I didn't want to go back on my word and say, no, I can't do this, especially when you're inconveniencing somebody else. But it's like, dude, inconvenience someone else at the cost of your own health. That's the choices we've been making, and I'm struggling with those now. But also, yeah, refusing to let other things go. Even if it wasn't Pilates classes I could have let go. I could have let go of some other ship classes, but I just felt like I couldn't. I felt like I shouldn't. I felt like it would be wrong if I did. I felt like, I said in last week's episode, I tie a lot of my worthiness into productivity. And this is literally slamming it in my face, telling me I have to work through it and I have to approach it. And the mentality of relief is coming in the future will not work for me, and it cannot be the way I continue to operate. And so funny enough, this week there has been opportunity though to not only have to advocate for myself and call in sick and get subs and have things canceled where they need to be canceled, but there's also been opportunities to let things off my plate, to step down from certain leadership roles I've taken on, and to say, hey, let's simplify my life. Let's not try and do everything all at once and be number one at everything. I'm not quitting anything. I'm just not being 100% present in every job at all times because it's impossible. It's truly impossible. And I'm happy to report I'm finally reconnecting with my spirituality and finding ways to ground myself and like force myself to not go on my phone as soon as I wake up in the morning. Okay. I did want to tell the story about the service elevator, but it hasn't quite worked itself out yet. And I don't need to tell you that it's worked. I don't need to wait to tell you the story until it works out. But part of another big stress was that we couldn't properly get the service elevator booked for our moving, and the moving stuff was causing me a lot of anxiety, and that was adding on to everything. And so everything sort of piled up, and here we are. Luckily, we aren't moving for another week, and my body has time to heal, and I'm taking it seriously, and I'm giving up shifts, and I'm putting my ego aside and telling her to shut the fuck up. But it's definitely a work in progress. But 2 more things I will leave you off with. One of them is that everything has a silver lining and everything happens for a reason, in my personal opinion. And one of the big reasons I think this happened was to make me slow down, shut the fuck up, all those things, but also to give me time with my family before I move and possibly never live with them ever again. And I've had one emotional moment about it with my boyfriend where I just cried to him and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this real? But having this injury has made me just have more time at home, and my dad is at the cottage. I can't believe also I made living in my parents' basement work for the entire winter, and it's suddenly when cottage season is happening again that my dad is gone and the house, like when my dad's gone, I love my dad so much. I love him so much. We have such a great relationship, but like his presence is so loud. His footsteps are so loud. I could tell you where he is in the house at any given moment. Okay. And so when he's not here, I will go upstairs and I will hang out with my mom fucking all the time. And so put an injury in my body at the same time, and her and I have been hanging out constantly. This is the first morning that I haven't. I mean, also forcibly, I don't know if that's a word, but yesterday morning I had like insane spasms and pain in my neck and cried and called for her, and she didn't hear me. And so I went upstairs sobbing. And so I've been spending the whole day with her. And we've been eating every meal together, which we like haven't done in years because I cook all my meals for myself. And we booked our whole trip together because I'm going to Portugal for a week and then she's meeting me in London, and we're doing London and Amsterdam together. And I said in last week's episode, I've had zero capacity to book it and plan it. And it's like, girl, you just had to take things off your plate and then you'd have capacity to prioritize this insanely important trip that my mom and I are going to get to have together. So I'm so relieved that this happened at the same time, which feels insane to say because I've been in so much pain the last few days. But I'm so relieved because I wanted to be able to be present in these final few weeks, which is so bittersweet, honestly. Josh and I have moments where we're like, I think before all this happened, we were just like, I want this to be over. I just want to move out with you right now. And I kept asking myself, like, how can I be present? How can I be excited about this? Why am I waiting for it all to be over? And, you know, I guess this had to happen for me to then be present and to be excited. And also, Josh and I went on a walk yesterday, and boy, do we look like the couple that's falling apart in the neighborhood. He's limping. I look as stiff as a fucking cardboard board. I literally went on a walk with my mom earlier in the morning too, and I was like, do I look like I'm hunched forward? And she's like, no, but you just look so stiff. And I had to stop walking to laugh because there's this like big pull all the way up my neck. It's crazy. And I'm so proud of myself for giving up my shift tomorrow too and fully taking a week off, because I'm just like, that my traps like clench when I teach. And I think it's really important for me to find ways to relieve some of that. Just a highly anxious, high functioning girl over here. All right. And so the last thing that I wanted to say amidst all of this is it's also showing me how much I forget the why of some of my self-care, practices I have. And something that I stopped doing was always having electrolytes going for me, like not always, but like every day being consistent with my electrolytes, because both of my jobs require so much speaking and talking and sweating. And so I stopped doing my electrolytes, but not only that, I stopped doing my trace minerals and my Celtic salt. And when I was ChatGPTing like what's happening and why this is happening, something that really helps is electrolytes and trace minerals. It helps release your muscles. And I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, I'm sure that contributed, that this self-care practice I just let go because I was like, I forget why I'm using these trace minerals. Like, fuck, Jessica. So now I'm back on it. Sometimes, you have to go through this. Another thing was like, literally, I used to be so good at this when I was in high school. I would leave my phone in the kitchen and I would not go on my phone for the first hour of waking up, at least. And I've just let that fly out the window. And now I go on my phone the moment I wake up and I'm an anxious bundle of chaos. And so my neck has forced me to stop doing that because it would sear pain through my body. So we're back on that. And not to expose my mom, but if you're listening, I love you and I'm going to share because like mother, like daughter, my mom had to take antibiotics because of the cold or like how sick she was recently. Also, LOL, I think I gave her that cold and just pushed through and never went to the doctor, even though Josh yelled at me to go to the doctor and I didn't. And it took me forever to get over being sick. Anyway, my parents both got sick and they both took antibiotics and they eventually got better. But my mom came downstairs like a week later being like, do you have some probiotics I can have? And I was like, yeah, why? And she's like, I have a yeast infection. And I was like, oh, and she's like, I have no idea why. And then we keep talking. And then she eventually mentions the antibiotics she just took for her sickness. And I'm like, Mom, antibiotics are like the number one cause of yeast infections. And she was like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. And I was like, this is hilarious. And then that reminded me that is literally why I take a probiotic supplement every single morning. And I said to her, I'm like, this is why I drink kombucha. Like, it's, you know, kind of a weird drink and now I love it. It's like my treat in my day is like a delicious kombucha. But I'm like, it's high in probiotics. Like I'm trying to protect all the good bacteria. I'm like, antibiotics get rid of not only the bad bacteria, and also the good bacteria. And so we just had a laugh and it's like, you know, sometimes you forget why you do the self-care things and why, you know, it's important to try and slow the fuck down. And then your body reminds you. And that is where we are. So I'm going to take the next 2 weeks off podcasting because I would like to bring in calm, grounded energy to the new home I am building with my boyfriend. That feels crazy. And give myself a little bit of a break. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being on this roller coaster of a ride with me. I just appreciate you. And if you want to follow along on Instagram @WithJessicaJane is my handle. And I would love if you would submit, you know, any questions you might have for me to answer on the pod, maybe a confession of your own where something went wrong and you're like, I'm stupid. I knew that answer, but I forgot. Submit it humantohumanpod.com/podcast. And you can also sign up for my newsletter to always get email notifications. Not always. I really definitely don't always send them. I send emails out maybe twice a month, just with new blog posts or new inside scoop of what's going on. Like the podcast is like the inside scoop. The blog is like the inside scoop of like what I'm not sharing on social or in word form. I want to share it in written form. And then Insta's like, you know, day-to-day updates. So that's the sitch. Love you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.